German cars of the 90s. What models come to your mind when you hear that? Personally, the first thing I think of is Mercedes-Benz W124, one of the most indestructible cars in the world. A car that could easily go millions of kilometers. That's exactly why it was bought by both regular families and businessmen, for its simplicity, comfort, and status. In some countries, this was pretty much the only car you would see working as a taxi. And honestly, in some places, that hasn't changed for shit. I also think of the Porsche 911 964. In my opinion, the most beautiful 911 of all time. This wasn't just another 911, it was a transition model for the entire lineup. A 3.6-liter flat six, producing between 250 and 300 horsepower. Just as stubborn as the earlier 911s, but now wrapped in a more modern design for its time. And if you look at these two cars, it becomes obvious. They come from completely different worlds that realistically should never intersect. Or can they? Well, they actually can. That's exactly what happened in 1990 when Mercedes took a regular W124, worked with Porsche, shoved a 5.0-liter engine into it, and called this thing the Mercedes-Benz 500e. Today, you're going to learn how an ordinary Mercedes-Benz W124 turned into one of the fastest sedans of its time, why this car wasn't developed by Mercedes-Benz alone, but with Porsche as well, how the V8 was created, completely changing the character of this calm sedan, why every single car was hand-built and passed through two different factories, and how the Mercedes-Benz 500e became one of the most underrated yet truly legendary cars of the 90s. You are on the Jesco channel, and this is the full story of the Mercedes-Benz 500e. To understand just how strange this project was, you first need to understand what the Mercedes-Benz W124 actually was. In the late 80s and early 90s, it was about as right as a car could be. Not in the sense of perfect, but just right. Calm, well thought out, and built without any unnecessary flex. This wasn't a car that tried to impress you. It just did its job. But later on, it proved that this exact thing was what made it impressive. People didn't buy it for speed or emotions. They bought it to drive every day, carry their family around, cruise on the highway, and not worry about anything going wrong. And most importantly, it actually delivered. These cars would easily do hundreds of thousands of kilometers, sometimes even more. No drama, no constant repairs, no surprises. And that's exactly why, at some point, the W124 became almost a standard taxi in many countries. Not because it was cheap, not at all, but because it was so reliable, it just made sense financially. You buy it, you drive it, and it doesn't mess with your head. Basically, a German Toyota. Around the same time, Mercedes' direct competitor, BMW, was selling its own version in the form of the BMW 5 Series, E34. Same idea, simple, practical, and hard to kill. But then they decided to take it a step further and released the BMW M5 E34. And that changed things. This was a car that showed everyone a sedan could be not only comfortable and practical, but also fast, while still looking almost like a regular sedan on the outside. A 3.6-liter inline-six, 315 horsepower, a top speed of 250 kilometers per hour, and that was only because it was limited. Without the limiter, it could reach around 275. Basically the fastest sedan of its time. And yeah, back then, that was a big deal. So Mercedes looks at this and they're like, yeah, we want that too. But very quickly they ran into a problem, a Mercedes problem. Their approach to things like this was different. They needed to keep their identity, their feeling of what a car should be. If you put it simply, we want to take our business sedan, turn it into a sports car, but make it look like a normal sedan. Change everything, but somehow change as little as possible. And at that point, it became clear. They needed a second player in this game. That player turned out to be Porsche. And honestly, it's not even that surprising, because back then, Porsche wasn't exactly the Porsche we know today. They were struggling financially, sales were dropping, and the company was basically taking on any project that could bring in money. And then Mercedes shows up and goes, "All right, look, we've got the W124. Fucking great car. People actually buy it, unlike yours. But we need one that drives more like yours. Think you can handle that?" Porsche didn't overthink it. They shook hands and got to work. But right away, they ran into another question. Where the hell are they even going to build this thing? The standard Mercedes production line just wasn't suitable for a car like this. Everything there was designed for mass production, and this car required modifications that simply didn't fit into that process. So they came up with a pretty weird system. First, the body would be built at a Mercedes factory. Then it would be sent over to Porsche. There, the car would be modified, partially assembled by hand, components changed, everything adjusted for the new setup. After that, the car would be sent back to Mercedes. More work would be done there, and then it could be sent back to Porsche again. Back and forth, over and over. Because of this, the whole process took a lot of time. One car could take around 18 days to build. But what exactly were they doing during those 18 days? All right, look. Just taking a Mercedes-Benz W124 and throwing a big engine into it would have been stupid. The car simply wasn't built for that kind of load. Yeah, it would be faster, but it would fall apart before it could actually use that speed. So they started with the most obvious thing, the engine. They took a 5.0-liter V8 from the Mercedes-Benz SL R129 and put it into the W124. 326 horsepower. For that time, that was a very serious number for a sedan. After that, they basically had to change almost everything related to how the car behaves. The suspension was reinforced so it could handle the speed and the extra weight. The brakes were upgraded too because accelerating with that kind of engine isn't that hard. But stopping properly, that's a different story. The body also had to be modified. If you look at the Mercedes-Benz 500e, it has slightly wider fenders. That's not for looks, it's just that otherwise all of this wouldn't fit. They didn't try to turn this car into a sports car. They didn't try to make it stiff, nervous, or aggressive. Quite the opposite. The goal was to keep that Mercedes feeling, so you sit in it and it's comfortable, calm, familiar. But the moment you press the gas, you realize this is no longer the business sedan it seemed to be. So from the outside and by feel, it's still a W124, but in terms of capability, it's on a completely different level. When you put all of this together, the engine, the suspension, the brakes, you end up with a very strange car in terms of how it feels, because you get into the Mercedes-Benz 500e, and at first, nothing feels unusual at all. Same interior, same comfort, same silence. It doesn't try to feel fast, it doesn't pressure you, it doesn't provoke you. You just drive it like a regular Mercedes-Benz W124. But then you press the gas, and the car starts moving completely differently. No drama, no unnecessary noise, not like the BMW M5 E34. It just builds speed smoothly and confidently. And at some point, you catch yourself realizing you're already going very fast. But inside, it's still quiet and stable. And that's exactly why it's often described as a wolf in sheep's clothing. Because on the outside, it's a completely normal sedan. No aggressive design, no loud statements, no attempt to stand out. But underneath, it's a completely different story. And just to remind you, this thing has a 5.0-liter V8, making 326 horsepower, with a top speed of 250 kilometers per hour, limited electronically. Without the limiter, it could easily reach around 270 kilometers per hour. 0 to 100 in about 6 seconds. trust me, for the 90s, that was fast. I'd even say too fucking fast. And let's clear this up right away. No, this is not an AMG like many people think. It's probably one of the biggest misconceptions about this car. In the early 90s, AMG wasn't part of Mercedes-Benz yet. It was a separate company that focused on tuning cars. But the 500e, that's a factory project, an official Mercedes just built in a very unusual way. Were there AMG versions of the W124? Yeah, there were. The most famous one, the AMG Hammer, an absolute beast of a car. I'll probably make a video about that one later. Back in 1998, the now iconic movie Taxi was released, and two Mercedes-Benz 500e actually got a pretty significant role in it. And to be fair, they were shown in a very good way. Chases, speed, style, everything was there. But there was one problem. These were the cars of the antagonists, German robbers.
C'est quoi vos petits bolides là? C'est des Mercedes. Oh là là, ils font des voitures aussi.
And after lines like that, and the overall way the car was portrayed on screen, Mercedes-Benz, let's just say, wasn't too happy with it. There were even rumors about legal issues between the brand and the filmmakers, but there's no solid confirmation of an actual lawsuit or how it ended. But here's the interesting part. Fans of the movie and Mercedes owners pretty much agreed on one thing. The red Mercedes looked absolutely perfect flying away from the police, and the gray one looked insanely good chasing down the Peugeot. Although, honestly, couldn't they pick a different car? Did it really have to be a Peugeot going up against a Mercedes? At least make the robbers drive something like a Renault. The 500e stayed in production for about 5 years, and during that time, only 10,479 units were built. Why so few? Because the production was complicated, slow, and this wasn't the kind of car they were making in the hundreds of thousands. And on top of that, it was an expensive car, not a mass market one. Today, finding one in stock condition, or even just in good shape, is really hard, and they're not cheap either. Clean collector examples easily sell for over $100,000 at auctions, and it makes sense. This car might not have been the loudest or most obvious project of the 90s, but it was unique, at least because it's one of the few cases where Mercedes-Benz and Porsche actually worked together. Not for marketing, but because there was simply no other way to do it. And in the end, what they created was a very interesting, well thought out, and in some ways even strange project, one that never really happened again. Thanks everyone for watching this video. If you enjoy these kinds of automotive history breakdowns, support the channel. Drop a like, subscribe, and let me know in the comments what car you'd like to see next. Love cars and appreciate them. And I'm not saying goodbye. I'll see you in the next video.